This is TK Coleman, and you're listening to Small Business Edge by Ceteris. This is the podcast where we deconstruct small business entrepreneurship through conversations with franchisees, passion-based business owners, and other experts. We learn what it takes to succeed. Today's guest is Charles Fisher. Charles Fisher is a serial entrepreneur who owns several businesses and franchises. And I'm really excited to talk with him today. Charles, thanks for joining the show.
I appreciate the offer and the opportunity. Thank you.
Charles, I typically talk with people who happen to be the CEO and founder of one or two businesses. You own several. According to your LinkedIn, you own at least a dozen. How many businesses do you own in total?
Currently right now, we're own and operate 22 franchise opportunities across 4 different brands. And so we've been very blessed and very fortunate to have a great team.
It sounds awesome. So I'd like to hear more about your story. I know that you didn't start off in the franchising world. You started off at the Navy Academy. So I'd like to know a little bit about that background with the Navy and how you made this transition from that world to the world of business.
So you mean to tell me, TK, not everyone starts at the Naval Academy? That's not everyone's entry. That's not how this works?
That's how it works.
No worries. For us, it's been a bit of a ride. My wife and I are both actually Navy veterans, and so my wife with 24 years of naval service, myself with 14. And at the end of the day, it's more happenstance than anything else that really started on our entrepreneurial journey. I tell you, my wife and I had talked about it many times about doing something with a franchise, what have you, but we were never really serious. However, one time on my way home from Iraq, I was catching a plane out of Kuwait, and at that time, I just picked up Entrepreneur magazine, and I just happened to be flipping through it, and I read this interesting article on what turned out to be our very first brand on Massage Envy. And my wife loves getting massages and facials, and so at the end of the day, I was like, man, my wife would love this place. This sounds like a really cool opportunity. And so we went back. I showed the wife, and the wife said, sure enough, they just opened one of those where you've been gone for the last 6 months. It just opened around the corner. I said, man, okay, well, let's go check it out. And then from there, it was just a series of events that allowed us to become entrepreneurs. And so in this case, we were both still in the Navy. And as it worked out, we purchased our first franchise opportunity with Massage Envy from the existing owner while we were both in the Navy, operated it, and then had some success there. Opened our second unit while we're still in the Navy. Had some more success. And then we had a choice between my continued naval career and or continue to grow our entrepreneur career. And so at that moment, forced with that choice, the financial writing on the wall, we were having so much success that it just didn't make sense to continue to pursue my military career at that time. And my wife had already just retired. And so at that point, we already had one retired vet, didn't need to have two. And that really kicked off our entrepreneurial journey. And so that's been kind of there's many blessings in between there, but that's kind of been our journey from the Navy to franchising.
What was the one skill or one lesson that was most applicable to your later life as an entrepreneur?
Discipline, and that makes sense. So at the end of the day, working in a military academy, working in the military in general, really teaches you the discipline piece, which lends itself to for me to really step out of my comfort zone and start serving others. And so just think about it. When you're a young kid, selfish. That's our sort of our motto. We're very selfish. We can only think about ourselves. And that really carries over when you're in college, and it becomes a maturity process as you become an adult. Well, the military does a fantastic job of beating that out of you.
How so, Charles? Give me some examples.
Well, sure. I mean, at day one, the Naval Academy, the idea here is you show up, and obviously all the boot camp things you see on TV, a lot of that is true. They shave your head, they give you new clothes, and you really have an opportunity here to transition and transform. Well, part of that transformation process is the little things, such as, like I mentioned before, this discipline, right? So now we have the Naval Academy tradition where every morning at 6 a.m., the freshman class, the plebe in this case, stands outside of his front door. He has memorized at least 2 newspaper articles, at least the menu of the day for the upcoming meal. So at 6 a.m. would be breakfast, plus any major events that are going to happen that day. And then we have to literally shout them out in unison with everyone else in the entire company in this case. And so there's typically about another 30 or 40 folks, and we're all doing this at 6 a.m. This is literally a wake-up call for every single person in that particular area who can hear us. And we do that every single morning with the exception of Sundays. I don't know how Sundays we get off, but every other morning we get. And so at the end of the day, that really teaches you something. It teaches you quite a few things, but that disciplined approach, and then the idea of serving others, because there is actually a purpose. You really are serving others, even though it seems like it's a boondoggle. It really isn't. It's useful information. People actually do want to know that. And it really teaches you initial process. Get out of yourself. It's not about you. It's not about team. It's now about how you can help serve in this country, save your country. But at the end of the day, it begins day one. And so that there's so many different examples. And so at the end of the day, everything about the Naval Academy and its process, whether it be an athlete, whether you be an engineer or musician, whether you're part of the rifle team or the marching band, all of it's built around team and leadership and service. And so that's kind of where that comes from.
When you talk about things like memorizing entire newspaper articles, memorizing menu information and so forth, I know they didn't just send you off to a library and say you've got several hours to do that work. The Navy definitely kept you busy with other things. So where did you find the time to do that?
You make the time. And I think that's another important aspect of this, right? We always have these limitations, but they're self-inflicted limitations. You really don't know what you can do until someone forces you into it. And so in these high pressure environments like the Naval Academy, where they got you doing 15,000 different things all day long, all of them important, you figure out a way. And so in this case, really the way you figure it out is when you're going to the bathroom to brush your teeth, you have that newspaper article in your hand. One person is telling you the menu, the other person's reading the newspaper article, and then providing the details to the other people around. And so we're basically all working together as a team to share information. And so that's kind of how you find the time. You just find a way, you make it work as a team, and you get it done.
Now, delving back into the particulars of the franchises you own, you talked about how you started off with Massage Envy and opened up a second unit while you were still in the Navy. Then there came that decision point where you said, I've got to go one way or the other. You decided to accept the entrepreneurial calling and pour all of your efforts into that. Now, how do we go from there to owning over 20 franchises? What came next?
Once upon a time, my wife and I, we were thinking we were just going to do two. We're going to be comfortable with two, do two. And then I don't know how I got a bug up my butt. But one day I went to the wife and said, wife, we're really good at this. And I think we should do more. And then my wife was resistant, but then we won a multi-unit franchisee of the year award for Massage Envy, which is one of the highest honors at that time that you can get in the franchise network. And once I had that smoking gun in my hand, I looked at my wife and said, what are we thinking, dude? If we're winning the highest rewards in our network, we need to be considering growing. Let's do this thing. We have some validation. We are good. Let's go. And the wife caved in. She buckled. And so once the wife buckled, once I had my better half on board, I was like, fine, let's go ahead and grow it. And we started to build a team, and we started to go acquire, and we had some investors who believed in our success and was able to invest behind us. And, plus the success we were having, we were able to recapitalize those funds into additional franchises. And so it's kind of been an organic growth based on our success.
What are some of the other brands, if you don't mind, that you own? You mentioned Massage Envy. What are some of the others?
Sure. So Massage Envy was our first set of brands. Then we transitioned to European Wax Center. And so we have Massage Envy, European Wax Center currently. After that, we did Tide Dry Cleaners, which we did for a little while, but we ended up divesting ourselves of that particular brand. And then after Tide Dry Cleaners, we invested in the Joint Chiropractic Clinic, which we still own and operate. After the Joint Chiropractic Clinic, we made an investment in the Bach to Rock franchise, which is a musical franchise. We ended up divesting ourselves of that particular brand, more based on the simple fact that we just didn't focus, weren't able to get ourselves started on that particular brand. And then after that, Cricket Wireless, and that's been our last brand currently. So we currently own and operate 4 brands, but 22 stores between the 4.
Okay, this is really interesting to me because there's a lot of diversity there, and lots of franchise owners preach a philosophy of stay within the framework of what you know or what you're passionate about. But it sounds like you've made some choices that have probably stretched you pretty far beyond your comfort zone and your existing knowledge base. Is that true?
Yes, I would agree with that statement. And so I want to be very clear to anyone listening on this podcast, always, always, always stay within your strengths. So my strengths in this case are leadership, people, innovation. That's kind of what I do. And so at the end of the day, the reason why we're involved with each of those brands, the leadership piece, I think, that really couples very easily. And so we have a real focus on raising and developing people. And so again, I said, blessing comes in many different ways. I've said this many times. For us, we've been very blessed to have great team members, and every single brand that we've been able to operate with, no matter what, we've always managed to find, hire, develop, keep great people. And so that's really what's driven our success. I want to be clear. It's nothing I do. I'm not on this podcast with you because I've done something. I'm on this podcast with you because I have great people who've done a lot. And so at the end of the day, that's kind of the connection between these different brands. At the end of the day, European Wax Center, there is actually an employee pool that we share with Massage Jimmy, believe it or not. And because we have a leadership pool already well established on the Massage Jimmy side, it was very easy for us to connect the dots to European Wax Center. For the joint, a little bit different from a labor pool, but at the same note, we had a customer pool that we were already pulling from, and so the joint was pretty easy. We were able to co-locate and use customers from other brands to really drive success on the joint side. And then for Cricket Wireless, believe it or not, it was the sales piece. We actually have, at both European Wax Center and Massage Jimmy, an ability in sales. And so we have leadership there that knows what they're doing, knows how to sell. It was easier for us to transition to the Cricket Wireless brand because of that. And we also had a great opportunity there. And so in this case, we brought that sales and leadership aspect to the team and continue to build that brand as we speak.
Charles, your story sounds so seamless, almost as if you had this kind of destiny to be an entrepreneur. Everything that happened prior to that seemed to prepare you perfectly. You made all of these smooth sounding transitions from one type of franchise to another. Were there any moments where you suffered some kind of setback, failure, or disappointment that sort of tempted you to question it all or question yourself?
Yeah, I say let's go a little coaching, mentoring time. And so absolutely there is. It does sound all good when you say it, right? Or you put it on paper, it all sounds great. But man, I tell you, it is hard going from 3 to 5, right? That's kind of your first jump. When you get to 3 units, it's hard to get to 5. And then when you go from 5 units, it's actually hard to get to 10, like that doubling again. And when you get past 10 units, it's extremely hard to get to 20.
Okay, break that down a little bit, because that's not obvious to me. Why is it, if you've got 3, it seems like 5 is just building on what you've already done, right? What's the difficulty there?
So what makes each of these transitions hard? So think about it. When you have one business, one franchise opportunity, one brand, you can really yourself be the subject matter expert, right? You can drive that, you can live it, you can be you. If you grow within the same brand and you now have 2 or 3, it's a transition now. You're still the subject matter expert. You're still able to run it because you're still working one brand. You have 3 units. Now you need to grow to a point where you can lead other people to help grow the unit, but you can still be the SME there, the subject matter expert. You can help drive your managers there. But I tell you, the moment you transition from 3 units to, let's say, 5, the whole ball game changes. You wouldn't think adding on 1 or 2 more units there makes a big difference, but it does. Now you need to consider a director of operations type person who needs to lead, and you need to be able to lead, manage that person. And so that one layer, that's really at 5 units, you're probably going to put that first layer in outside of unit level leaders. That person has to be right. And so you begin to learn lessons there. I tell you, as you continue to grow the organization and as you continue to grow brands, the lessons compound. And so just think about it. Now we had this lesson about having a director of operations. You got to get that in for 105 units. You go to 2 brands, well, you're probably the SME in your new brand. You got your director of operations in your old brand. You're growing that subject matter expert again, that you're going to do it again once that brand gets to a certain size. You get another director of operations. Now, what happens when you grow to about 10 units? The ball game changes again. Now, you probably need to start building a real team. And so in this case, Ceteris for us has been a blessing. We haven't necessarily had to build the financial side because we have a good partner there who can grow with us. However, if you consider the other areas of your business, human resources, operations, let's say strategy, marketing, training, all these different areas, you have to figure out how you're going to grow and supplement those areas. Across a certain number of units, it can no longer be you. You can no longer be that guy or gal, right? You just have too much on your plate that has to get done in order for you to continue to be successful. You got to build a team. And so this is your first real transition point. How you build that team and how you can afford to build that team really dictates your coming into your next season. And so when you get to 20 plus units, you're starting to get to this point where you got a hell of a lot going on. You start to build, hopefully, a successful team. And now you're really starting to evaluate, are we ever going to make some damn money? I got all these expensive players on my team. How many units do I have to make some money? And so, again, it's part of a natural growth cycle in any franchise system. There's no question there. But in any entrepreneurial opportunity or endeavor, these are actually very natural cycles in the business. And so the one I'm currently in is the one where you build a great team, you get a lot of units. When are we going to start to see a return? And so that's kind of where I am currently.
All right, you went from 3 to 5 and made that difficult transition. Then you went from 5 to 10, made that even more difficult transition, 10 to 20, and you're still going. You keep pushing past the point where most people would be incredibly satisfied. I mean, the amount of success you have right now is astonishing for most people. What's driving you? What are you going for now?
All right, well, that's a fair question. Our vision is to impact the lives of people that we touch, whether it be our team members, whether it be customers through the door. Right? I summarize this by using the Massage Envy vision. I think it helps understand why this is important. It's better lives, better families, better communities, a better world through our hands. Right? And for me, I'm a Christian, so for me, that's really how do I share God's love with other people? And I do it by making sure that every single team member in our family understands that they are on this earth for a limited period of time. And that on this period of time, we need to do and make the biggest difference that we can, positive difference that we can in the lives of everyone around us. And every single opportunity is a way to do that. And so you asked me what continues to drive me. Well, in this case, my vision, my hope that the larger our footprint, the larger our ability to drive impact. At the end of the day, we may make changes in the future. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities out there, a lot of them that interest me. But for now, we'll continue to do this and do it well, and continue to impact the lives of as many people as we can, hopefully through our employees first, and then hopefully through our customers after. And so, that's kind of what drives us. That's kind of why we keep growing. Maybe that's why we keep being successful, that, that is important to us, that we really do care. We really do want to make a difference. Like we really absolutely want to love on the person in front of us in some small way. And maybe customers really like that. I don't know.
Well, you're certainly painting an interesting picture of generosity and this idea of service, because one thing that you hear lots of people say when it comes to the pursuit of wealth or business success is, well, I just want enough for myself to take care of my family and or I just want enough to be financially secure. And you're saying, I want enough to be a big impact on the world. I want enough to do more than just take care of my family. I want to create opportunities for other people.
No, I think that's a fair summary. The way you say it's a lot better than what I said. I'm going to podcast and keep it for myself. But no, in all seriousness, your insight there is spot on. At the end of the day, the more resources that you're able to deploy, the more your ability to impact. And so for us, let's keep building the resources while we can. And let's make the difference that we can. And let's go out here and shape this earth. I mean, we all sit around and complain about everything that's wrong in the world. Well, at the end of the day, we have an opportunity to do something about it. Whether it be some small gesture of generosity, working with the customer in front of you, and or whether it be just working really hard for your team, whatever that is, this opportunity to serve changes things. And so if you're not satisfied with anything in life, get out there, serve somebody, and make change. And so that's kind of, you're absolutely right. More resources, more ability to impact.
Charles, let me follow up on that last bit, because this is a time where a lot of people are feeling disempowered for a lot of different reasons. And so many feel as if their lives are pushed and pulled by all sorts of external conditions. And it can be very easy to feel this way in the business world, where you have all sorts of regulatory hurdles you have to jump across, tax limitations, and so forth. What would you say to someone who says, I want to live that philosophy of criticizing by creating? I want to live that philosophy of changing the world and not just complaining about it, but I don't know where to start. What would be a good, simple starting point that's accessible to anyone?
Sure. It's a biblical philosophy, but it's some people call it the golden rule, but it's this idea of you sow what you reap. And so if you want to say, hey, goodness, I want to make a difference, I don't know where to start, just so many competing interests in the world, know that what you start sowing is what you will reap. And if you want to have a harvest in such a way that you're really creating goodwill on the earth, first thing you have to do is go sow some goodwill. I mean, I hate to boil it down to something so simple, but it really is that simple. This idea of what you focus on grows. So go focus on creating small goodwill opportunities. And I tell you, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, it starts with your team members. I tell you, you have the largest impact on your team, probably more than anyone else outside of a spouse or maybe kids. And so the idea is start there. Just go make some small impact. And it's nothing huge. It starts with a simple conversation. It starts with trying to understand what motivates people. It starts with trying to figure out what their goals are and help them get there. I tell you, for every employee you lose because you help them find a better opportunity, you're going to gain like 5. And so again, you reap goodwill there because you help someone who had maybe potential, and maybe they'd outgrown your organization. Go help them go find an organization that makes sense for them. Get them there. And once they get there, I tell you, I promise you, absolutely promise you, will always come back to you in spades in ways you never saw. And so this idea of sowing and reaping, I tell you, it starts there. Just focus there. If the whole world seems cluttered, if the whole world just seems chaotic, I tell you, just go sow a little order, go sow a little love, go sow a little hospitality, and it'll come back, and you'll see the world around you start to change. I would also tell you, start with gratitude too. So that would be my 2. So every day you should start your day with some sort of gratitude. Say, hey, I'm just so thankful because. And if you do that, it helps keep the anxiety down because there is a lot to be grateful for. You woke up that morning, start there. Man, I'm glad I woke up today. And then just go through a list of anything else you can be grateful for. And then just go sow some goodwill in the world.
That sounds like great advice. Charles, before we wrap up, there is one question I absolutely have to ask you about because it's the one thing that made no sense to me when I looked into your life. Most people, a college degree is a means to an end. Most people want that prestigious degree from a prestigious university precisely because they believe it will create opportunities for them. When I look at your life, you came into the entrepreneurial world already a heavily credentialed man, highly trained, highly skilled, and you had a lot of what people are already looking for. And then you went on to succeed immensely. You could probably go teach at your pick of business colleges and offer more to those students from your experience and success than many professors who don't have that kind of success. Why did you, in spite of all of that, go get an MBA from Duke? Like, what motivated that decision?
Was it either that or Harvard? No, I'm just kidding.
Because you didn't need it, right? You don't need it for your career. Am I right?
No, not really. Let's talk to that. So, the Duke MBA education was an excellent opportunity for me. One of the questions I always ask myself is, what is it that I don't know? As an entrepreneur, you should always ask that question. You should always be asking, what do I not know? What do I need to know? And so for me, one of those issues is that there's obviously a value to the MBA education. And I was very concerned that there was elements of that MBA education that I need to have in order to be successful in my present career. And what I discovered when I went and got my MBA from Duke really helped me understand the capacities and capabilities of people. Now, I know that doesn't make sense, but when you're a military guy, you're coming from a military sector, you have a very narrow understanding of business industry, right? Because that is you've spent most of your career in leadership, working in the military. That's what you know. You start again in franchising, you still have a very narrow view of business. You start working through your MBA and you work on, in this case, I did an executive global MBA. You work with a lot of fantastic and competent people. You begin to understand exactly what the capabilities and capacities are of people, of different organizations, of different job titles, whatever. You get a wider breadth of business knowledge, which for me was important. And that's actually why I got the MBA. I wanted to make sure I was starting to round out my business and entrepreneur education so that I could be prepared. And so that's why. Now, what do I need to be prepared for, I think is my next answer for you. For me, and this is my shameless plug, Dream to Serve is my management company. That's the company that we stood up here a couple of years ago. But Dream to Serve was stood up for a specific purpose. I have in my mind the vision as our company continues to grow to invest behind leaders. And so venture capital and the likes, venture capitals, they're looking for a good idea. And then once they find a good idea, then they bring a leadership team around it. And at that point, they invest behind it. For me, I'd like to take a slightly different approach, and Dream to Serve is that approach to it. I'd like to invest behind leaders, strong people, talented people, people who have demonstrated excellence, whether it be in a professional career or just in life in general. And then once we find and target those people, let's get them the business opportunity that makes sense for them to be the most successful. And that's kind of what Dream to Serve is for me. And that's also why the MBA was important. At the end of the day, I wanted to make sure I had a wide enough breadth of business acumen, and that helps, so that when we start investing behind the right people, that we start helping them and shaping their lives for the right business opportunity that makes the most sense for them, that I'm able to provide, whether it be mentoring, coaching, or just the ability to have insight and vet the right people, that I could really do well in my leadership of Dream to Serve. And so we've actually kind of started down this path. At the end of the day, not a lot of people know this, and I probably should say in the podcast, but my intent is we're going to roll out a program here shortly where we are going to be selling franchise units to our team members. And so again, like I said, we're going to invest behind leaders. Luckily, I already have those leaders in my team. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and get them ready, and I'm going to sell them franchise opportunities that we currently have. And as we continue to grow our organization, we'll be more deliberate about finding people out in the workplace that have demonstrated excellence, bringing them on our team, getting them ready, whether it be for a franchise business or whether it be for a different business somewhere else. At the end of the day, that's always where success has gone. It's never been on some great idea. It's always going to be on the leader leading that great idea. And so there's lots of fantastic opportunities in the world, just not enough people to run them. And so that's kind of where we are. And that's where Dream to Serve is going to progress to, and it's progressing to. And so appreciate you giving me a forum to say that, but that's why the MBA was important.
If someone who just heard you talk about Dream to Serve says, I want to know more, I want to see how I can get involved, what's an action step for them to take?
Oh, well, sure. It's I would tell you can either call me or send me an email, but email will probably be easiest. It's charles.fisher@dreamtoserve.com, and Fisher is Fisher. Send me anytime. I tell you, you got to be cool with my vision. I am serious about making an impact and difference in this world. If that's something that, at the end of the day, I'm just a money grubbing person, all I want to do is make money, that's cool, but I'm not going to be the guy for you. But if you want to make money and make an impact, all right, we can work together. And so, make sure that you have, you're in alignment with me before you reach out, please.
Charles, you have definitely given us a great starting point, a lot of resources to check out. And I'm sure anyone who listens to this episode will definitely feel like they've learned some valuable things. So thanks so much for joining us today. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much, TK. I appreciate it.
For added insights and a full collection of episodes from Small Business Edge, visit ceteris.com/podcast.